Hello, Shannon. Thank you very much for hanging us here. I want to thank you and the whole Applied Client Network for hosting us. You're really wonderful partners. My name is Metod Topolnik. I'm the founder and CEO of SimplePin. SimplePin is accounts receivable, accounts payable platform specialized for the insurance industry in Northern America. And today I wanted to also introduce to you our partner and our guest, Karen Hoflin, VP Go Insurance. And yeah, maybe you can introduce yourself as well.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us. And thank you, Metod, for the invitation to join you on this webinar today. I'm the Vice President of Go Insurance here in Edmonton, Alberta, and also the President of the Alberta chapter for the Applied Client Network. I hope today that you'll find this information full of a bunch of interesting knowledge and insights into how we can be better at what we do every day as brokers.
So, well, here's our agenda that we prepared for you today. The topics that we will cover include how has COVID-19 affected the industry. I think this is very relevant and top of mind for all of us today, but also for tomorrow. How to create positive change, important for any business, but also vital for today's reality. The value of digitizing payments, and as Karen said, the customer interaction begins with a payment, and first impressions matters very much. And we will also cover how integrated payment experiences work, and we will dive deeper into the difference between the standards, the good and the great. But finally, we will also look into how we'll lie ahead of 2020 and beyond. And we will always close it down with a little question and answer. Well, I'm starting with the first slide here, and you know, like, please, I'm a little bit nervous, so I want to cover this here. But how has COVID-19 affected the industry for you, Karen?
So, like all of us, COVID came upon us fast and furious, and we had to make quick adjustments and transformations from our typical come to work, do our job, go home sort of pattern to now what do we do kind of questions and how do we handle things. And those came at us really, really quickly. So not just adjusting to sending most of our employees, if not all of them, home, but then how do we communicate with our clients? How do we make ourselves approachable? Right down to now, how do we collect payments? If clients came into the office, what do we do? How do we manage the money back and forth between ourselves and our insurers? And we don't want to be sending things in mail. We don't want to be touching paper. So how are we going to do that? And we had all kinds of what if questions that definitely came at us during this COVID. And one of the really great things that came out of, you know, they say out of everything bad comes something good. And I think for us, for sure, we were set pretty well digitally already, but we still had some work to do on the financial side, the payment side. And so this really catapulted us into asking that tough question, well, if we're going to change, let's do it now and make it worthwhile. So we really quickly pivoted and made our financial side very digital very quickly through a company like SimplePin.
Well, that's very interesting. What about also, you know, like the challenges you as a broker? So did you see more interaction with your customers? Like, did you see more time spent interacting with them with their adjusted reality?
Yeah, well, you know, people had a lot of time on their hands, that's for sure. And they used that time to review their policies and their wordings and how do I do things. And so we were on the phone a lot more than even we expected. And a lot of challenges and questions that we maybe hadn't dealt with in the past with our clients. So, which is a good thing. We want to make sure that whatever we do works for our clients and allows us to be approachable. So whether that's through whatever media form they want to reach us at, whether it's phone, email, text, or chat. And we saw probably a 200% uptake in our chat volume off of our website over during this COVID time. So again, staying approachable to our clients in whatever venue they choose, I think is really important.
Well, thank you for that insight. Well, obviously, the challenges that we are facing today obviously are also a source of innovation. So challenges can be disruptive, but also they seem to be the biggest catalyst for innovation. And it can be intimidating, but it also sometimes forces us to do something we should have done already before. And I think it's like a great example for this is especially from the payments world, and that's where I'm coming from, was September 9/11 in 2001, and I think it's like a lot of people from us remember this horrible day. What happened there is that after 9/11, check processing was halted for weeks because no planes were flying. And while this was very traumatic, it was really, really tough on the industry. So this crisis forced actually businesses and banks into processing checks electronically. And that's why we have an electronic check today. So Karen, how do you feel about that?
I think it's wonderful. We experienced that here in Alberta with the Fort McMurray fires and just the sheer volume of people that were displaced. And, typically insurance companies paid claims by handing a client a check. And really quickly, they had to figure out how they were to get funds, emergency funds to clients who were spread all over because they had to leave. They obviously weren't going to get mail at their homes. So they had to find a really fast way of dispersing money to these people that were, living in emergency shelters and things like that. So they had to really quickly deploy some strategies to get that money out, and that's how they came to be able to do that through e-transfer, which they had never done before. So I think just like 9/11 and just like Fort McMurray, I think COVID has done the exact same thing for us and forced us into a world of have to, not wish to. And we have to find ways to, and had to find ways to collect money that was faster, easier, and not just for the client, but for our staff as well. If they're not comfortable with the process, they're not going to promote it to the client. So we had to transform really quickly and find ways as brokers to be able to accommodate that, because most of our insurers are not set up, nor should they be, I think, to be able to take payments directly from clients. So we needed to transform ourselves and find software that was out there that was easy to adapt to, easy to integrate with our broker management system and with our current, financial processes in accounting as well. So I think, every time there's a tragedy, I think it just catapults us and moves us faster to where we should be.
Well, I think that leads us nicely over to the point, is like how we can make a positive change now. And, one thing that, I thought, Karen, you were a great partner, was every time we talk each other, it's like I was really impressed what you have done with your organization. And can you share, it's like some steps that you have taken and are currently taking, it's like to make a positive change?
Sure. So we, we're very forward focused and very digital focused. We believe that a process, and we'll talk about the difference between electronic and digital here in a little bit. But for us, we needed to digitize our processes as much as possible. And obviously that started when we went to Epic in 2015. And we've continued to look at every single process in our office and how we can automate/digitize that. Accounting was sort of the last one. We knew we needed to do some work there, and we had taken steps to take payments, I would say electronically, not digitally. Electronically, we can collect the money, but there was still a very manual, hands-on process for moving that money around within our company and then out to our insurers or clients. So we knew we needed to do some work, but again, it was probably more on the wish-to list than the have-to list. But we were trying and starting to take steps to investigate ways to do that. So right just shortly before COVID, we had deployed a strategy within Epic and SimplePin that kind of gave us a little bit of an insight in how we're going to manage that. And with COVID, we just actually had to ramp that up and completely digitize the money side of things so that we now have a completely digital process for collecting money from client right through to company. There isn't a single hand that touches that transaction, save for one, and that's bank reconciliation. But otherwise, the money moves digitally through our system without having to touch it. So it was a great relief for us because it made having to transition working from home quick and easy. It took away all the pain points of well, who's going to do this and who's going to do that. The staff, it was very easy for the staff to adapt to, and they quickly saw the value for clients where we're able to now immediately pull money out of clients' accounts. If it's for a payment, we can do that, or the client can do that. So the control is in two places, which I think for us is really important, that the client feels that they are in control of their finances. I think, Metod, you and I had talked once or twice even about the fact that, insurance is a financial product, and we tend to sometimes not operate in that vein, particularly with payments. And so when you give the client the ability to control their money and make decisions about how they want to make a payment, how many payments they actually want to make, and you digitize that process for them, now we're operating as a financial product where, we're in the landscape that we're competing in, which may be banks or direct writers who sometimes have a little bit better process for that. So this allows us and affords us the opportunity to be able to operate in the same landscape and better, in my opinion. So for us, allowing us the ability to do that, I think just gives us more time to be experts in what we need to be experts in, and it's definitely not collecting money. I don't know an insurance person out there who likes to be a bill collector. So I think if we can move money around easy, it just takes away that pain point in the transaction of insurance.
Well, I think when we had our discussions, a very, very important point that you mentioned, and it's and it does really resonate well with me, was the return of time invested. I think because the only thing that we can't buy is really time. And that was something, where I see that's really value. So for you, it's the value of digitizing payments is really kind of not only in reflected in time, but also other results. Can you share a little bit on that part?
Yeah. So insurance people want to be insurance people, and again, where are they where is the skill best placed? And insurance people are better at doing insurance. So when I look at transforming a process and digitizing it, one of the very first things I consider is the return on time invested. So if a CSR or a broker is talking to a client and it's insurance related and it's developing that relationship, maybe turning it into more insurance, then that's a real return on the time that they're investing in a client versus time taking a payment. There's no real return on that. That becomes a cost center. It's an expense to us. It's not revenue generating. Really, the revenue generating process was at the time that they were doing the insurance and developing that relationship. So again, if we can digitize that process and make it quick and painless and simple, then the return on time invested in the entire insurance transaction just goes up. which is a direct reflection on your bottom line. Less expenses, more revenue, just means more bottom line profit for everybody. So definitely the first thing I look at is what's the return on time invested? How easy is it to do the transaction? Then I look at customer satisfaction and retention. Is this a tool that is going to ensure the client understands that dealing with us is easy? We've reduced as many pain points as we possibly can. They're satisfied. They feel in control of what we're doing for them every day. And the more that we can augment and complement that throughout the life cycle of the client, the higher that we've seen our retention. The more flexible we are when it comes to payments and the ability for us to maneuver through that, we see that retention go up incrementally. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, your cash flow is improved as well.
I also think it is like going back on this customer satisfaction retention. I think, one part that you also mentioned is have the ability to be flexible. I think, it's like giving that COVID-19 is having on continuously, it's like having an effect on, I would say also the financial situation and life situation of the insured. It would just give, it's like, you as the broker, the opportunity to step up. I think, it's like step up in a way where you become the center of their needs in terms of insurance. It's like, yes, you can cover some things with technology where you have a chat and SMS, but when, it's like you have a whole life situation to address, I think this brings again, it's like the broker more in the center, while, it's like they will have to spend, as you mentioned already before, I think you will spend more time interacting again with your insured, because that's the time, it's like when you have to adjust. But also what I believe, it's like is, and this ultimately also goes down, to a satisfaction and retention part. I think, can you share with us, it's like how your retention rate was in the last couple of months?
Yeah, so we saw, when COVID started, I think like every other business out there, there was that initial fear of what was going to happen. And we know that insurance is something you have to have, but, when it comes right down to it, people need to eat before they need to drive. So what was going to happen in insurance? We had no idea. We knew, we fully expected people were going to be calling us to hold payments, change coverages, change rating. So we knew that was coming, but what we didn't anticipate was retention going up. And we have a couple of different ways that we manage people's payments here. And we saw a full almost 7% uptake in our retention from March 15th to date. And a lot of that, we attribute a lot of that to being able to be very, very, very flexible with people's payments, whether it's monthly payments or full payments, much more so than insurers can be on the direct bill side of things, where we're able to, we were able to hold payments, we were able to split payments up, we were able to allow them to, pay it in 3 payments if they needed to, and again, we were able to do that digitally. So it was not a labor-intensive process for us. So again, a very high return on time invested. Just because we were able to do that, we could change payment dates, we could do all kinds of things for the clients.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I think, it's like, in all, I believe, it's like that this will also increase, I would say, it's like it will increase your, what we wrote, it's like agency brand, like having all these tools, it's like allows you to separate yourself from others that don't have it, because, like I think people tend to say rather no than, it's like adjust. And I think, it's like when you say yes, it's like we understand you, we are here for you, and we can do this for you. I believe. Do you think that this, it's like is a big thing, or was this a very important value for you?
It's always important for me that we, insurance is one of those products that nobody likes to buy. We all know that. And, people are always skeptical about insurance at the best of times. So whenever we can change their mind and have them experience it in a different way, I think it's important for us across the board in this industry to do that. And again, payments are always the pain point in insurance. Nobody wants to pay it, and they think we're always asking for money. So again, if we can change that experience in any way and open up, the ability to be able to say yes, I think it helps all of us, not just our own brand individually.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for the insight. Well, which in the end, you mentioned already before, it's like integrated digital experience. So electronic is not digital. I think maybe most of the people that were listening to us, they will have one or another experience or taking already, like digital payments, or is it, like credit card, debit cards, or ACH, be it EFT. But I think that we always have the notion, and I think it's like also the expectation that in today's world, it's all about convenience and providing a great experience. So us at SimplePin, like we are really driven and crazy in the end to provide a frictionless experience, but especially, like for clients and insurance clients, as well as their customers. So, and the reality is also that, nobody wants to, more work and wants to work more or disrupt anything for customers, especially when we are starting to talk about payment. So electronic, be it payments or systems, is not the same as a digital experience. Can you tell us what you did before and how painful this was and how you adjusted to that?
Well, I think I'm like every other broker. Everybody has a debit machine sitting somewhere in their office that they run either a bank card through or a credit card through to take a payment. You might have some kind of an online presence where you can, clients can make a payment, but it is not seamless and it does not flow well, and it's very labor intensive in some cases, especially debit machines. If you haven't, digitized that at all, then it's run it through, grab the paper, do a paper receipt, put it in the safe, and then the next day accounting comes and does a deposit, puts that all together, reconciles it with your debit card company statements, and then does the bank statement. And that's how we used to do it. We evolved a little bit where we digitized the debit machine. So we went away with an actual debit machine, and we have an iPad connected to a small pad for credit cards that's all done. But that was really the extent of what we had done for the most part. We did have a little bit of an online payment process for our EFT clients, but again, not completely digital, more electronic, because there's a lot of manual time spent setting up bank accounts and setting up payment reconciling. So it was definitely it was a pain point in our office on just how much time we spend managing and handling money and payments. It was not fun, for sure.
Well, I certainly can imagine. Well, that's one of the reasons why I think, like we talk, I think, in promote in the end, like something that will actually really work and will be really easy to apply. But I think, it's like that processes for every broker, like, and I think that you mentioned it already before, it has to be really seamless and they have to work really tightly together and has to be integrated. And it has to be a touchless transaction, it's like, especially, well, during the times of COVID. But we also believe in, it's like, it has to be directly from the BMS to the customer and directly back into the BMS. On the other side, we also really believe in the ease of use. Obviously, implementing a new system must be seamless for the staff, because otherwise there will be a lot of resistance. But it also needs to be easy and intuitive for the customer, because, well, we don't want to put up obstacles getting paid or drive more phone calls to you. And another thing I believe, is like that is very important is, offer all the payments that your customers wants to pay with. It's like if it is by pay by bank, PAD, that's pay by bank is ACH, PAD is the EFT process in Canada, credit card, debit card, and Apple Pay. I think it's ultimately, we want to get paid in any way, shape, or form. And what I believe also nowadays is that customers, it's like want to pay at any time from anywhere or in real time. And I think that we need to facilitate that. But finally, I think, and that's the greatest for every broker, I think, or for every player in the industry is, it's like you want to have real-time visibility, it's like who paid, who's covered, who owes money. And if not, it's like to automate all the follow-ups so you don't have to spend time, it's like running after your money, but have a system doing it for you. But also having real-time insights, it's like into your business and payments is crucial. So what is your opinion on that? Is this, it's like how much value did it really brought to you, or how much time did you spend or saved, or how much did you or be able, it's like to optimize your organization?
Well, one of the things we all have our favorite digital experience, and mine is always, interestingly enough, I've come to love Amazon, especially during COVID. Again, it really forced it forced everybody to learn how to do things online, whether it's ordering your groceries for pickup or ordering things on Amazon and having it delivered. Although, the delay in delivery from what's normal to COVID, I think, was a little bit of a pain point for some of us. Things just didn't come as fast as they used to. So it's a good example on how you get used to something really quickly, and when you don't get that level of service, you notice it very quickly. And again, for us, digitizing the payment process I compared it to an Amazon-like experience, where we needed to make sure that for our customer, the way in which they made a payment had to match their need, not ours. So this really wasn't about what we believed. It was more about what does that customer expect based on all the other things that they do digitally now every day. And we needed to match that almost identically to that experience, whether it's a banking experience or a shopping experience. For me, we needed to align ourselves to be able to do that quickly, seamlessly, where they were in control, and be able to get to us at any point in time. Conversely, the staff needed to be able to say to the client, when the client says, well, how am I going to pay you? We needed to be able to offer a suite of options for that client so that they could choose the way in which they wanted to do business with us. And so SimplePin definitely offered us and afforded us the ability to do that quickly, easily, and it is absolutely in real time, right down to if we're taking money out of their account for a payment, we can do that ourselves by simply entering the bank account information. A PAD authorization is accepted and emailed to them, so they have a copy. And within seconds, not minutes, seconds, we have withdrawn the money out of their account. That, I think, when the staff saw how that worked, that was sort of the icing on the cake for them. And now that's all we do. So we don't mail out invoices to clients. We don't email invoices to clients. So our mail costs for sure have gone down because of that. But when you send a client an invoice electronically and you say it should be there, and they look at their phone and go, oh my goodness, it's right here. Okay, I'm paying it right now. Within 5 minutes, you've invoiced it and received a payment back already. That's lightning speed technology for sure.
Well, I think, it's like we have talked a lot about that. It's like I just wanted to let the audience know. So what we did is the next slide is we pre-recorded, or Karen pre-recorded a few steps to see how it actually looks in her system. I think that we will be able, so to talk about it, just to give you also an info. So Karen is in Edmonton. The system will show the Canadian version, while we have also American version or US version, which is exactly the same, just, it's like with the US banks. Where we are also supporting 16,100 US financial institutions and banks. So the reason why you will not see, well, we're not showing a US and a Canadian one is because we have a data residency, meaning, it's like two separate systems, one in Canada and one in the US. And Karen, why don't you walk us through here? So.
All right. So for most of you, if you're on Epic, you go into transactions, you go links to SimplePin. You're just the transaction you highlighted is the transaction it's going to bill. You say request payment by email, and an invoice is emailed to the client immediately. With all the information, they have the option to pay the invoice immediately, which they can do. They would set up their own account, and then they have the choice of either pay by credit card or pay by bank account, and an option of how many installments they wish to do that in. Pay by bank account simply means they're going to go in and sign into their bank. They're going to upload to SimplePin their bank information through a PAD, just like they would normally give you one. They're going to check that, agree and sign. So you're going to go through that with them, agree and sign. They're going to get a copy of that PAD agreement immediately. It's then going to withdraw the money from their bank account immediately. You're going to see a copy of that invoice attached in Epic, in attachments, and an activity is also auto-created showing that the SimplePin payment was sent and then payment was received on that invoice. The transaction is posted, so the balance is automatically affected on Epic, showing a zero balance immediately. It then posts it into a finance company. So it removes it off the customer's AR and moves it over to the SimplePin as an accounts receivable. So easy to reconcile. You can see all the transactions under SimplePin that were collected. So reconciling the payment from SimplePin back to your account is very simple and easy to do. But all digital. Nobody has touched that transaction from start to finish, from invoicing all the way to payment taking.
Fantastic. Thank you for taking us quickly through. I know it's fast, but I think it comes to the point. Maybe also you want to share, it's like what other projects you're having with SimplePin. It's like maybe you can share this a little bit with the audience as well.
Yeah, so we're working on a couple of different. Every time I go into SimplePin, it creates another, gee, I wish it could do this, and off it goes to SimplePin saying, hey, I think we need to work on this. So we're about ready to launch the direct bill version of SimplePin, meaning that you also will be able to accept a direct bill payment. So again, no transaction to post from an agency bill, which you just saw, but you'll now be able to generate an invoice for the client to pay directly to you for a direct bill if you need to. We take a lot of payments on behalf of our insurer. Clients want to e-transfer us. They don't want to pay by credit card or anything like that, and insurance companies obviously aren't set up to do that. And because we are, and because they're used to that because of other accounts that they pay us that way, they automatically want to pay us on their direct bill account. So I said to SimplePin, we need to be able to do this, because right now we're kind of operating one way for one type of transaction and one way for another. And I like to keep things simple. So we're working on that right now and super excited. I think we're about ready to finalize that as well. And one of the interesting things about SimplePin, I just keep going, is you saw quickly on the demo where they could do 1, 3, or 6 payments. Each person, you have the ability to ask SimplePin to adjust that for you. So we're going to really quickly here in the next probably a month or so, I think, Metod probably, look at doing that on a monthly basis, 12 months. And I just want to back up a little bit and just make sure everybody understands that when a client gets an invoice, if they choose to pay it by two payments or three payments or six payments or whatever you've asked SimplePin to set up, the system automatically sends the client auto reminders. So you don't have to worry about your accounts receivable. Are they paying, or did they get another statement reminding them? The system automatically is set up to send them, I think it's 5 reminders over a period of time based on the due date of the policy. You can change that and customize your reminders and make it more aggressive if you want to, but the system automatically manages your accounts receivable for you. So you don't need necessarily a person full-time, or your CSRs don't need to be worried about the AR like they normally would have. If a invoice is not paid after the last reminder is sent, you will get the email back saying this billing is outstanding. And at that point, then you can take action and get a hold of the client however you choose to, digitally or otherwise. So it's very self-contained, but you still very much stay a part of that process.
Fantastic. Well, thank you for sharing this. Also, maybe I will add to, it's like we will be shortly releasing our CSR24 version, which means, it's like that anyone that is using CSR24 will be able to offer payments straight out of CSR24 with SimplePin, meaning that when the customer logs into CSR24, clicks on overview, we'll be able to load all the open invoices or the paid invoices to display to the customer, and he can go through the process and actually pay with one click as well. And the cool stuff about that is, and I think what you said before, the Amazon-like experience, I think that is all our drivers, also from the, not only from the consumer perspective, but also from the broker or from the CSR perspective. And well, I think there will be a lot of new things that will come in the future. But also what you mentioned before is claims payout. I think I can share also that we will have a very, very interesting instant claim payout solution coming up in a very short future. So that means, like really not only that you will be able to take the money in, but I think also on the claim side, which I think completes the whole payment process, and also for the customer experience, it's like will be fulfilled from us as well.
Good.
So, but it's like, but so we talk about so much nice technology and whatever, but if you can share, it's like with our audience, how did you experience, it's like the onboarding, and what do you expect from a successful onboarding?
For me, a successful onboarding it's simple. It doesn't require a lot of work on my part to set it up and program it and add, scripts and things like that. I think, our job is to run our business. And so the more time we can spend on that, the better. And so for me, ease of implementation, and if I don't have to spend a lot of time on it and to get it up and running, it's a bonus. And SimplePin was so easy to implement because it's a cloud-based program. The integration piece into Epic is really, really simple and fast. It's not difficult at all. And on the backside, the SimplePin dashboard is easy to understand. Changes are really quick. So if there is something you want to adjust, like number of payments or some kind of language or setting, it's really easy to do. And in a lot of cases, the admin can do that right on the dashboard themselves. So very, very easy.
How was the feedback of your employees on the integration?
They love it. Again, really easy for them to do. They just really click on the link. It takes them in there. We can add invoices on the fly. So that's the other thing. Lots of times, if it's a new policy or a policy change, you might want to collect that money up front before you're releasing any kind of documentation, certificates, or liability cards. And again, now that they're able to go in and add an invoice immediately, even if there's no transaction on the Epic side, they can add an invoice on the SimplePin side, send that off to the client. They can actually even say get payment, take that bank information with the client on the phone and withdraw that money out of their account while the client is on the phone with them. They see immediately that the payment is successful and they can release whatever documents they want to release. So for them, the value is again in not being a bill collector or holding documentation. We always say documents hostage, waiting for money, or waiting for that e-transfer and then having to change the client because they didn't send it right away. So for them, this is it just releases them from all of those ugly transactions they might have had in the past.
Very, very good. It's like, I just wanted to mention is like, I think that in many ways you're also using the system a little bit different. Maybe you can share, it's like how you use, it's like the pay button. It's like it's a little different way that we showed here, but how do you use it on your documents?
Yeah.
What are you doing there?
When we send our notifications out to clients, so we send our notifications for renewals or changes or anything, we don't actually send any paper out of this office. We are 100% paperless. We communicate with our clients. For the most part, our primary point of contact is by SMS, firstly, and email second. And so within SimplePin, you can either send them the actual invoice or you can send them a link to get to that invoice. And we use the link most of the time. That's the mode of choice that we send. We send them a link, they click on it, and then they can go ahead and make their payment.
Did you see a big, it's like, do you see a big uptake, it's like when you see it embedded into your documents, like, with the pay button here, do you use it as like kind of pay to initiate or pay to validate the policy or to bound the policy?
Yes, yeah. So clients, it was funny because when we first started using this, and I was the one sending out the invoices to clients, and I'd send out invoices, and all of a sudden I'd see an email pop up that a client had already made the payment. And that for me was sort of the proof in the pudding that this is the right way to go. Just people paying that quickly was amazing.
Fantastic. Well, I think that was kind of, like your slide. I think, like that slide in the end, like kind of represents 100% Karen, because, now it's like you're dealing with an experienced operator. So if you can just share, it's like what was really important for you?
Yeah, for me, it is all about show me the money. I think, what we want to, we're in business to make money. And one of the biggest sort of challenges for me with some of the other online payment options was that you don't get your money right away. There's always a time lag, and that can be anywhere from 3 to 7 days, depending on the provider. And, we're in a cash business, and we can't be waiting that long for, our money and to make sure that it's in our bank account. So SimplePin affords us the ability to, we see our money much quicker. We see the confirmations from clients faster, and there's no limit. So typically e-transfer has a limit on it, at least here in Canada it does. ACH sometimes has limits on us. This has no limit. So we remove, again, those pain points of, well, I can only send you $1,000 today, or, I've tapped out today. That, again, those objections that normally we would hear from clients that gets us to that next step in the process, those have been eliminated completely. Real-time posting in BMS, huge. When you can see that payment is on the account, when the CSR, the producer, whether they're in the office, they're working from home, or they're mobile, doesn't matter. When they can see immediately that payment has been posted in the BMS, again, it just gives them that sense of finality that the process is moving on, and it just makes those steps that much harder. Broker management reconciliation, much quicker. We're not worried about where did the money come from, is it posted properly, it's just there. and it just makes that process faster. So job satisfaction from a broker staff perspective goes way up. And when that happens, happy staff have happy customers and have happy people like me.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much for your insight and sharing this with us. I think that we are slowly concluding, it's like our webinar from the presentation side, and obviously this shall pass as well. And looking ahead in 2020 and beyond, I think that research shows that innovation will not only get us through today's pandemic, but it also sets up for future successes. So what are your thoughts on this?
Well, a couple of things. I think insurers, I think we kind of woke up the bear a little bit in that respect, and I think they now know that they need to move a little quicker on maybe some of these initiatives. And so I think we're going to see, at lightning speed, some of these carriers are going to make some pretty fundamental decisions on their business processes, dealing with us as brokers. And I think we need to be ready, and we need to be able to match their speed in those kinds of changes. I don't think what you can't afford to do is have an insurer that is digitizing their processes. And as brokers, we're still kind of back in the old world of, well, I need to send you a check, or I need to wait for the client to drop off their payment. I think we need to make sure that we're driving ahead at equal or better speed than our carriers. I know for me, there's a lot of carriers who, this is the way that we do business. And I often say to the carriers, this is the way I do business. And I did that in COVID. We had a couple of carriers who still wanted payment by check, and I said, we don't pay anything by check anymore. So you're going to have to accept it to us digitally, because I'm not going to have my accountant come in and write checks just specifically for you. So we need to find a way to make this happen. That's the only way it's going to happen. So I think we as brokers need to own our own destiny a little bit as well, and not be afraid to deploy some of these strategies. And certainly now, I think, fully knowing that it's not going to be long, the carriers are going to be right beside us.
Well, great input, Karen. Well, thank you very much for sharing, your experience and insight with us. It's really much appreciated. For the attendees, I sincerely hope you found today's session valuable. Gained some new insights and perspective from Karen. And your outlook for the future is brighter than ever. So at this point, I think that we should move into our Q&A session. So let's see what we have here.
Okay, one question came through. Is SimplePin only available in Epic? What about Applied TAM?
At the moment, I will take this. So at the moment, we are available at Epic. I think there are some movements based on our CSR24 activity. But it's not our focus at the moment, unfortunately. But we are certainly looking into this. I think that there's a movement into in that direction, and we certainly want to serve all applied customers. And Epic currently is the most supported platform that we do.
And if attendees have any questions, please submit them in your Q&A box.
We did have a couple of questions on chat.
Okay, we got a question. What is the SimplePin pricing structure? Is it a flat fee to SimplePin for access by the broker and the client shoulders the fee, or is it a payment by the broker for each transaction taken?
So what we built in the end a solution where you sign up. Within that sign up, you can actually choose if you want to pass on the fees to the client, or if you want to take the fees yourself. It gives you even the ability to share the fees completely dynamically. In Canada, we set up a system. I will ask both sides of the border, obviously, because we work in the US as well as in Canada. In Canada, you can pass on the fees compliantly to your customers, as well as in the US as well. The fees are comparable to your credit card fees. I think the fees on credit card is on all brands, American Express, Visa, MasterCard is 2.9%. And I think on the bank-to-bank transfer, it's about $2.99 or $2.90 is like out of my head. I would say, like the cool thing about it is like, you sign up and in 5 minutes you're live. What it takes in order to go live with your Epic implementation, it takes rough about 90 minutes to deploy. I think on CSR24, 90 minutes to deploy, but giving like that everything is in order. And obviously you want to test it and you want to have everything set up, but that's pretty straightforward. It's really, really fast. The other thing is also, is the system able to work in reverse to issue a refund back to a client? Yes, you can also be able to send payments out to your clients. That's what I mentioned before. This is a product that we're going to release. So you'll be able actually to also do claims payouts, so it goes in both ways.
Jessica had a question regarding when we send invoices, do we send policy documents? So just to answer that, again, we are completely digital here, so we do not issue paper. What we do is everything is client accessible on CSR24, either portal or app version. So when we send a notification to the client, that is, again, all digital via the download. They received an SMS text advising them that their documents are ready to view. The second notification they receive from us is the payment notification with the link from SimplePin to make that payment. And again, any document that's created is client accessible. They're able to see it on their portal account.
And answering, I think, it's like your second question, it's like if you're sending, if we are sending accompanying policy documents as well, it's actually the opposite. So it's like what you can do is you can actually copy paste the payment button that you actually enter into any shape or form of document. If it's a PDF or Word file, you can enter it into any document that you are actually sending out to a customer, and the customer just clicks on it and goes through the same experience. All right. Do we have any other questions?
Nope, nothing else is in the Q&A box.
All right. Well, if you have any questions, I think in terms of in terms of the webinar, I think that we want to thank you, very much for spending the time with us today. For questions that you still have, you have here our addresses. You can please make sure you want to follow up with us, and we gladly we'll answer all your questions that you have. Please feel free to reach us under all these informations that we sent you. Once again, thank you very much for hosting us, but a big thank you, Karen, for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure having you with us today. And also, again, for our attendees, thank you very much for taking the time out of your busy schedule.
Thank you, Metod, for the invite, and ACN for organizing this, and for all the attendees. It was a pleasure to spend some time with you today. My contact information is there, also on the ACN site. If you want to reach me that way, if you have any questions from a user's perspective, I'd be more than happy to spend some time walking you through that as well. So feel free to reach out if you need.
Thank you very much.